All right, let's have a discussion about Hiveminds. Hiveminds are a new addition to Utopia and are only available in Utopia. And in all honesty, it's an interesting way of playing the game. There is no happiness involved. Diplomacy is very minimal. There is no unrest, and everybody seems to dislike you because you are, in fact, a hive mind and strange to everybody involved. The thing with hive minds is they are only allowed to go down the biological path, which kind of makes sense considering, well, they're biological in nature and, well, they are hive-minded. And, yeah, it kind of makes sense. Though, even though some people argue, you know what, I could go for cyborg with this one, not necessarily agreeing on that one. So you feel free to drop a comment down below to discuss this, because the void that is all, which is the hive mind that we're going to be talking about today, and as an example, is definitely waiting to purge your worlds. Another thing to notice here about hive minds is that whenever they take a world that has a other species on it, that other species will be consumed by the hive mind, boosting its population significantly. Growth will be insane at that point. Anyway, let's go have a look here at what we have. So we start off in our species creation screen. We go through the usual shenanigans, and we start off with our traits. Now, hive minds have a couple of very fascinating little things going on for themselves. For instance, you would normally think that they would be able to adapt themselves to worlds quite easily, which makes total sense. Now, obviously, you have your 5 basic traits. For instance, if you add intelligent, they become a little bit more better in their research output, etc. However, it's kind of important to note that considering hive minds do grow quite quickly in terms of population growth, because they have a couple of very interesting little mechanics behind them. Anyway, you kind of want to be a little bit clever about your initial setup, because most species live or die in the character creation screen. So we can add some slow breeders. It doesn't really matter, because if you would generally go for the biological path, slow breeders is something that you can remove relatively quickly. Repugnant, because everybody hates you anyway, so it's not really a problem. Besides, this other species happiness, so it doesn't really apply to you, considering there will be no other species within your empire, and, you know, you can do a whole bunch of other things. But this is not why we're here. Let's go to our government and ethics screen, where you'll find in the middle of the ethics wheel, hive-minded, which obviously, well, it disables the tutorial because there's currently no tutorial available. Rulers are immortal, which is kind of great. Happiness is not a thing in hive minds, which makes it an excellent thing for new players. There is no factions involved, which means that you will be struggling for the influence bonuses that they give, and influence is a problem for hive minds, and by default they're offset by a 1% influence bonus in addition to what you would normally get. You cannot use AI, you cannot use psionics. Hive-minded pops cannot survive within Hive-mind Empire, so if you want your world to get taken, your pops will die on those planets. And that is pretty much but that is not why Hive-minds are so amazing. It's because of their unique civics that they have. So let's take it off from the top here. We've got subspace and HAPS, which increases naval capacity by 15%. Neural network, a natural neural network, increases research speed by 5%. You kind of want to go for this, as research is something that Hivemind struggles with a little bit. Aesthetic, consumer goods cost minus 20%. I'm not really a big fan of it, considering the amount of space that you'll be taking. Minerals are not going to be a problem. One Mind, monthly Unity plus 15% in addition to the 20% modifier that you're going to get as a Hivemind. Pretty damn strong, so quite good, and especially useful if you want to go for those Ascension perks early on, which you will need to, as I will illustrate in a little bit. Divided Attention, Core Systems plus 2, quite good, especially if you want to min-max your worlds specifically. Having direct control over a hive mind is rather good. The Strength of Legions, army damage plus 20, I don't really take it. I don't think it's all that good, especially once you get Gene Seed Purification Technology after your first Ascension perk. You get your Gene Warriors, so they're basically indestructible. Subsumed Will, monthly influence plus 1, so good. Please take it. You will get basically an infinite amount of influence, plus the ones that you're already getting. So like 4 influence, 5 influence a month is really not out of the picture. which means that you can compete relatively easily with other empires, which is great. Let's take a look here. And pooled knowledge. Pooled knowledge increases the leader skill levels by 1, as well as the leader pool size by 1 as well. So we have more leaders to pick off, and you will be able to get better leaders earlier on, which is great for scientists, because then you can go for those special projects relatively early on and basically spread your wings very quickly. Especially when it comes to the fallen empires. No, not the fallen empires, the extinct empires. Especially when you have a lot of science early on, it means that you can a lot easier get to the end of the chains of those events, which means that you can get a ton of unity relatively quickly, which is going to be very important when it comes to the Hiveminds. Anyway, as we start, let's get underway and let's take a look at what the Hivemind does on the ground in-game. Now, I've prepared this empire here, which is kind of interesting for what it does. Obviously, it is a Hivemind. Let's take a look at what sort of bonuses we have within our policies and edicts. Well, as you can see, we don't have a lot of stuff to play with. There's no purging because purging happens automatic. There is some food stockpiling and, of course, some war philosophy. But aside from that, there's not much you can do. In addition, factions are disabled, so you will not have access to that at all. In addition, as you can see, there is also no things in terms of species and what sort of rights they have. Now, considering the living standards for Hiveminds are non-existent, Hiveminds basically live extremely briefly, and consumer good costs are incredibly low. It's kind of funny. It seems to be broken right now. Apparently, you will not be able to use Hivemind living standards because right now we are Hivemind. I'm sure that is a bug, and it's going to be fixed in the future. So, a thing to keep in mind. Now, as you manage to take down an enemy planet, you will notice that the pops on these worlds will interestingly be purged. That means they will be systematically be killed off. This is both a boon and a huge negative, and I'll tell you why. Basically, this is considered purging. So once you kill off a population, you will instantly be notified, by other empires that you are in fact genocidal and will cause massive negative bonuses to you. So what you want to do is you want to make them vassals for as long as possible. This means that in the Unity tree, the use of the harmony and domination tradition trees are incredibly useful, especially domination, as it's completely focused on vassals as well as tributaries. And tributaries particularly are quite useful as they can give you an additional 10% of their income with the protection racket bonus, which is definitely something that you want to keep your eye on. Of course, a vassal acculturation as well as Star Lords is incredibly useful, but that will only be useful till later on in the game. Now, obviously, there's a whole bunch of other traditions that we also can take a look at, as we've already taken a look at domination. Expansion is relatively straightforward. You're going to need to take a lot of territory relatively soon. Prosperity, we'll take a look at that shortly. Harmony becomes effectively useless. A lot of these are based around leader lifespan, ethics attraction stuff, unrest. Mainly Bulwark of Harmony could be interesting, but that's only for defensive wars, and you're going to be on defensive for relatively long. Paradise Dome, it generates food, but you don't really need the happiness. Supremacy, actually quite useful for this. You can take a lot of territory relatively quickly, and because of the way the Seed Planet War Demand cost modifier works, you can take a lot more worlds, which is quite useful. War games, obviously quite useful. The great game, Unity output, absolutely. You want to get a lot of rivals at some point in combination with all your vassals so you can spread out your wings, so to speak. Diplomacy, Foreign Federation, habitability bonuses, visitor center. Yeah, I'm not a big fan of it. I don't feel it really works with Hiveminds. Discovery, as always, is great. Always go for it. It is awesome, and is pretty much that. But now we get to prosperity. So prosperity, obviously, we got our standard construction templates. Ship costs decreased, which is great. Ship upkeep decreased, which is great. Building upkeep, which is decreased, is great. Energy and nexus and grids, that they increase their Unity output, is great. And then we get to transstellar corporations. The tradition that breaks Hiveminds. So what does this do? It unlocks a private colony ship. Now, normally in the game, a private colony ship spawns a colony ship with energy. So you can basically buy a colony ship for energy. However, it usually has completely diverging ethics to the rest of your empire. See where I'm going with this? Private colony ships that you can buy for energy in a period when minerals are everything that have no impact on your ethics. This shit right here breaks Hiveminds. You can crank out tons and tons and tons of these bad boys for only just energy. And considering your economy should already be balanced towards minerals and energy, means you will have a lot of energy in your pocket, whilst at the same time spending your minerals on getting more energy and more minerals. So the energy is used to expand basically for free when it comes to ethics, and you can use the minerals for everything else. Transstellar Corporations breaks Hiveminds. It is great. Get it as soon as you can. Now, once you finally manage to get towards the point where you can take an enemy world, or at least integrate them within your society, you'll have the ability to add a new thing towards their species. You can make them hive-minded. It is a free cost on a genetic modification modifier. It will take a little bit of resources. Obviously, it's genetic manipulation, so it shouldn't be a problem. But as that is going on, we can then hit the modify button and activate the modification option. The main thing is that during this period is that the pops will still be consumed. So you're going to need to be relatively quick with actually integrating these pops within the Hivemind. Once all of that is done, you will have yourself a species that is effectively part of your Hivemind, and that's how that one works. This is a general overview of Hiveminds and their mechanics. They're pretty fun. And in all honesty, I do not have a lot of problems with them. They are quite good. They do not obviously have any happiness modifiers. Everybody hates them, and that is fine. We will have to play a lot with vassals, but that's the way the game plays. At least until you have the second, or at least finished the biological ascendancy perks. I hope this was informative to you and that you had something to work with here in your games. Until next time, take good care of yourselves and each other.